are on.
Welcome. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Whether you're joining us on the CSS parking lot or you're joining us somewhere on cyberspace, wherever you are, I hope this service is a meaningful one for you, uplifting. Everyone should feel good. The happiest day of the year, the happiest day of the week and studies is Friday, because you have the whole weekend in front of you. And the happiest day of the year for Jews is the day after Yom Kippur. I'm going to tell you a story about what happens to a rabbi's brain on Yom Kippur. Maybe Cantor will relate to this too. So we sent our dogs out last night. Before they go to bed, they go to the bathroom and come back in. And I called out, and instead of saying my dog's names, I said, Shana Tova! It was the craziest thing. Ashira looks at me like I was crazy. And I just said, wow, that is exactly what happens. I'm so used to saying Shana Tova, it just comes out.
Did they come in?
They don't care. They just hear food. That's all they hear. So this is the Shabbat that's dedicated to poetry. So throughout this, I have a new collection. My first collection was my goal of last year, thanks to Gary Earl Ross and Ganella Kester for helping me. This is poetry written while walking dogs. And so I'm going to share, these are poems I actually wrote during COVID over the last 18 months. And this one, during one of those times where life was a little quieter. Remember that? I noticed that over today, when I went to Wegmans, when I was going about, there was a lot of cars on the road. I was like, what happened? Do you remember when we would go out on Sheridan and there was no one there? And how great it was? You go to Wegmans, and it was scary, but no one was in the store. So I was kind of missing those days, and I would sit in our backyard there, and I was just reflecting in that moment towards the beginning of the pandemic. This is called To the Supreme Creator. The wind was ripping through the trees as it tends to where I live. I sat on a hot, dry day below the gentle pines in my backyard, enjoying the energy of it all, knowing that some days I may sit stoic and inconsequential or choose not to rise at all. Still, despite my best attempts, the world will give a vigorous response, tormenting the landscape, destroying my meager garden, or maybe even tossing a few loose shingles. And I, as is my right, can simply allow that energy beyond me to envelop me without the slightest need to even move into the shade. I was thinking about that for us tonight on the CSS parking lot, just like where I was a minute ago over at Middle School for my daughter's soccer game. No shade, no shade. All right, we have Bruce Corris going to do our official welcome
here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Who'd have thunk that after Yom Kippur, we are out here in the parking lot. It's 80 degrees, if not more. We're in shorts. Could this be any better? Rabbi says that Friday is the happiest day of the week. The day after Yom Kippur is the happiest day of the year for Jews, which means this is our happy hour. Enjoy the service. I'll be back with the announcements a little later, and I have a special treat for the rabbi during the announcements.
Oh, I bet it'll make me laugh. Our immediate past president. He likes that. Let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air. How grateful we are just to be alive. We are going to light our electric candles here, and Cantor will lead us in the prayer on page 120 in our Mishkan.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik neh
Bibles, light our way into Shabbat and into the year. We are going to sanctify our day of Shabbat on page 123. One of the things you don't get on Yom Kippur is Kiddush or Hamotzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, obrei v'riakafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava v'ratzon impilanu zikaron l'maseh bereshit kihu yom tefillah l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher etziat mitzrayim kivanu macharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'v'ratzon infaltanu baruch atah Adonai v'kadesh haShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim, to life. We'll turn now to welcome Shabbat officially onto the CSS parking lot on page 138. We have L'chadodi. We're going to sing that first verse and the last verse. On the last verse, we turn towards our entrance, which I guess is over here on Sheridan Drive. We bow to Shabbat, and then we turn to one another, and we have a nice wave here. Services we had. Quite remarkable. We're going to turn to the Baruch Hu, remain standing, page 146, imagining Jerusalem out over our building. It's probably that way. This way.
Which way?
I think Harvey says it's that way. It's just to the other block.
Yeah, the other side of Transit Road.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamevorach, Baruch Adonai Hamevorach, Le'olam Vaed.
Page 152, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Le'olam Vaed.
You may be seated. The V'ahavta, page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miyotecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinamta levanecha v'dibarta v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lachtecha b'derech u'v'shochtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot hayadecha ve'hayu letotafot בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו מה עשיתם וכל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
What is the very first thing the Israelites did after they left the sea into freedom? Anyone know? Well, they danced and they sang the song, but then they kvetched. It doesn't really matter the situation we're in, wherever we are in our life. Sometimes it's hard to feel okay with that, especially during COVID. It's hard to accept where we are. This poem kind of was written in that space, trying to find something of beauty in such a difficult time that we're living in. It's called Incandescent Spaces. Incandescent spaces. I would rather be like leaf tossed from high tree limb of aged oak, meant to drop without balance, waffled by wind, tormented by gnarled branches, and left to fend in uproarious open space. Then the beautiful tear-dropped Japanese maple, whose red speckled yellow glides gently like light itself, subsumed by loving ground, on landscape of neglect and abuse, to still look glorious underfoot. Do not lose yourself in the way things are. Find the resilient and cherish them. Allow their spirits to fly off with the wind. We continue with the Michamocha, that sacred call of Moses, and that would be found on page 150.
Come
invite you to rise or sit, whatever is your custom, for the tefillah. It starts on page 164. Take some opportunity now for your own private reflections and prayers. And whenever you're ready, if you are standing, you may be seated.
Be
use a little of that peace right now. Before services, I was on the call with Gail Kushner. She's very concerned. Her nephew, her great nephew, Alec Cohen, is a police officer, and he's in Maryland and had suffering through pneumonia, and now he has to have brain surgery. We're sending a lot of prayers out to him. Before we collect all those prayers, thinking about that and just the bravery of so many of our congregation and how we've had to persevere in so many difficult health struggles. I'd like to read this poem, and it's dedicated to someone who's really shown me a lot of courage in their journey. It's called The Very Thing That Makes Us Fly. I read it also at the Holocaust Memorial Service. There is so much sadness, oceans of it, whole planets. If we are not watchful, it can seep into our every moment and round them like a tear. If you haven't already, watch for it on the faces of those you love, even the happiest among us. Listen to it in song and story, in the very air we breathe. You ask for me to cry with you and not stand up and walk away. So much of it seeps into me, like oceans, planets, like your soul itself, hoping that the deep black hole you say sits in your dreams will lift off your heart, flying like a shadow and disappear into the darkness of the room in which we sit. Sadness is just like that. Feel it even in this poem, the very thing that makes us fly. We turn our attention to all those in need. I'm going to read our list. And we think deeply if we can take even a little bit, 1/60th, as the rabbis say. Maybe it'll make them a little bit stronger, a little more able to cope. And I also want to mention Mindy Wyman. Please put her in your prayers tonight. She's really struggling and she really needs us. We're thinking of Gail Ackerholt, Ebony Burse, Noah Camacho, Karen Cooper, Arthur DeZelke, Faggy Fox, Sue Frank, Leo Fuccia, Irene Green, Reed Hefner, Nancy Hersbrun, Robert Caton, Dan Kester, Mark Nightinger, Tony Lagalvo, Gwen Lowinger, Larry Max, Jean McGarry, Lee Mesh, Ryan McGowan, Jennifer Milich, Carrie Moscato, Mary Rumez, Charlene Ripses, Doris Sirota, Don Sherman, Mike Seipel, Meg Wagner, Anita Weisel, Jeffrey Winnick, Mark Yablin, Elizabeth Giza Yeager, Christine Zalowinski, and Hannah Ezra Ben Shua. If you have other names, either with those of us here today or others, just feel free to say. And we, in our prayer book, page 371, Mishabek.
Who bless the ones before
have strength for the journey. May we have strength in our journey. So on my sermon on Kol Nidre, talked about Moses' song, how he stood there, this individual, afraid even to speak, somehow found a voice, a song, a poem. And here at the end of his journey, and Hazinu at the end of the Torah, nearing his death at 120, his eyes still bright, he again turns to poetry. We think about poem as a form, it's a way of elevating those moments, transforming them, allowing beauty. But I think, for me, I use poetry when I have a feeling that I can only express more in the abstract. It's a way of capturing a moment, almost like a picture. Often it is capturing sadness, awareness, sometimes joy. It's a way of marking and revisiting, sometimes a straight narrative or a simple story. I can't capture what the words of a poem, even if you don't understand them, they somehow sing to us. The words of Moses' poem, when you look at them, they're full of pain and violence and triumphalism, and perhaps for our modern ears it's a little bit hard to hear. But because they're poem, we sing it almost every Shabbat with Micha Mocha. Because it's a poem, it's able to still find us in that way. So I'm going to share a couple more. And again, this has been kind of my way to cope and process this year. And I want to share one about winter, because it's very hot here. Anyone go to Akron Falls during the winter? There was, actually this is on Lake Erie. I'm going to go up there. If you go all the way up, it was like exit 57 on the highway. You go out there to Lake Erie and it was just covered. There's some wonderful beaches out there. But in the winter, it's a little different. It's called Lake Erie in winter. The lake was not a lake, but a vast expanse of snow, a wilderness of deserted space, and aside from a few loose gull tracks, pristine, filled with gorgeous bumps of frozen waves. My children ran into it, dove, swam in stillness with heavy black boots and colorful reflective coats and gloves. We had gone beyond the lake, found our way to an unknown planet. Getting further and further from the shore, a tiki bar stood distant, abandoned, a reminder of the world we had left behind, sullen without sand and sun. We walked until the ice began to crack, following our own tracks back, occasionally falling into deep holes which swallowed our legs, laughing as we pulled one another out, freezing but giddy, climbing back into our car like a spaceship ready to return. Just a few more. This actually I wrote before COVID, but it really captured the moment before that time, before all this happened. As Sharon Kramer taught me, that the landscape before, you know it when you're in the after. And this is about my daughter's first day of 6th grade, which 6th grade was interrupted, and she's only back in school now, fully now in 8th grade. She turned like Lot's wife turned to see Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, like Sisyphus turned to see the boulder down the hill, like Orpah turned to see Ruth and Naomi disappear from view. She turned back to me to check if I was still there. The bus towards middle school seemed so far away. I was the dutiful father watching as she boarded, watching as it pulled away. Now it was my turn to turn. The bus receding from view. My heart like salt turned statuesque, like boulder rolled away, like Orpah was turning to return home. And I'll read you the very first poem I think I wrote during COVID. It was about hoping to get back to the moment, which we're still not in. It's called Return to Normal. Remember this time when you looked at me with premonition. Like two army brigades, we stood on opposite sides of the street, you with your dog, I with mine. We looked stony-eyed at one another, What store of weapons were you carrying? We nodded in mild acquiescence and then marched quietly back to our homes, scrubbing away any hint of our interaction, remembering this time. Do not be dismayed, for battles of this kind are beyond our comprehension. We are neighbors in the truest sense of the word, allied in our mutual cohabitation of this ever-tilting earth, that one day will have us holding one another in celebration of all that we endured in those uncertain days. So we'll take that spirit of poetry that Moses introduced so many years ago, and whatever it is, whether it's written poetry or just finding beauty in this world, I hope that you carry a little with that and find it even here in the CSS parking lot. We're going to turn to Aleinu now as we resume our service, page 586. I invite you to rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשה כגויי הארצות, ולא עשה בנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא עשה חלקנו כהם, וקורבננו ככל העולם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. May one day we all come together as one, peace, harmony, feeling our natural love for one another and support. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Our condolences to the family of Amy O'Donnell on the passage of Myron Carroll. We're also remembering Rosemary Chow, Lynn Converso Miller, and Kenneth Nightinger, who died in the last month. On our yard site list from years past, we remember Donald Alcott, Nat Bagel, Joe Berger, Philip Black, Grace Lusto, Leo Berwick, Jeffrey Capro, Cynthia Cohen, Mary Lou Davis, Mildred Engel, Regina Faden, Catherine Falk, Myra Falk, William Finkelstein, Carolyn Foreman, Zeta Freyden, Benjamin Golden, Abe Gottlieb, Rita Green, Fred Gross, Joseph Hirsch, Jane Selah Heskins, Estelle Himmelstein, Edward Hyman, Jack S. Knopp, Harriet Schustek-Horn, Max Lieberman, Joseph Lindenfeld, Nicholas Lowinger, William Mintzer, Beatrice Pearlstein, Irving Proper, James Z. Pugash, Milton Reingold, Simon Rubin, Chuck Shepard, Mervyn J. Schwartz, Tammy Esther Siegel, Isidore Simon, Joseph Simon, Saul Sloan, Max Slonim, Cecilia Spiegelman, Sam Sabatnik, Herman Umoff, Stanley Warsaw, and Sophie Weinstein. If there's other names, feel free to offer them.
Mel Davis.
Gary Melendez.
Invite all those whose custom it is to rise. Page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbi, Yalma, Yibrach, Yertei, Yamlik Malkutei, V'chayachon, V'yamachon, V'chayei, V'chol Beit Yisrael, Agalav, Yizman, Karib, Yivru Amen. Tehei Shmei Rabba, Mevorach, Le'olam U'me'al Mayam. Yibarach, Yishtabach, Yipar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh. Yadar, Yitalel, Yitalal, Shemei Kedusha, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran b'alma v'yivarami, v'hei shlomer abamim shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yivarami, oseh shalom v'mama, huya oseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yivarami. May God grant peace here in our community, in the world, with all those grieving, all those lost. May there be peace in this world. And we say, Amen. May be seated. Zikronam Livracha. And Bruce Chorus has something very special to announce. I have no idea, but he told me I'm going to smile. So.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back.
You gotta wait. She's gonna adjust to this.
Okay.
There
Sorry
you
about that.
go.
Shabbat Shalom again. Welcome back to Park and Pray services. I have great news. Yesterday, on Yom Kippur, I atoned for all the jokes I tell about the rabbi during the announcements. And God forgave me. He said, you've got a clean slate for the next year.
So you could start all over.
I can start all over again. So aren't you excited about that? Thank you to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, and Paul Staley for a wonderful service outdoors tonight. Wasn't this a nice service? And wasn't it nice to be out here in the parking lot? Look, it's actually cooling off a little bit now. It's getting comfortable. We want to thank Kyle Burke for the outdoor setup, and we want to thank Steve Hurwitz, Mark Nightinger, and Sue Frank for fixing the outdoor setup. We were a little spread out earlier, and we scooched in a little bit, and we are much better the way we are. We are still maintaining social distance, which is very important. And for now, we're going to continue to have masks required, even though we're not under the tent. Because of the concern, let's continue to do masks, please. And also, I want to thank everyone who RSVP'd, because that allowed us to set up enough chairs. We have enough service leaflets. Joanne can have enough ice cream to go. So it really does matter. Thank you for that. Tomorrow morning, we have Torah study at 9 a.m., Shabbat morning service and virtual Kiddush luncheon at 11. Both are via Zoom. The website will have the links. Sunday, week 2 of our brand new community religious school. So exciting. And we're off to a great start. If we have any religious school parents who are watching, obviously we're not thrilled with how the pickup went last week, but those of you that were in the parking lot with me were very nice about it, and I was, of course, very apologetic. And we've changed the structure for this week, so we should be good to go. You live and learn. That's what we do. So thank you for your patience last week. So the community school, by the way, this is historic because it's kids from Congregation Shir Shalom, Temple Beth Zion, and Temple Beth Tzedek all together attending religious school. Last Sunday was a very significant day for Jewish education in Western New York. This coming Sunday, in addition to religious school, the men's group will be here at Temple building our sukkah. You can see that the materials are outside already. If you can come over at, I believe, 9 a.m. to help, that would be great. No experience needed. And you do not have to be mechanically inclined, which of course most of us are not. Also this Sunday is Service Sunday. We are doing that with North Presbyterian Church, working on projects in the community. Julia Cohan is here. If you have any questions about that, she'll chat with you afterward. Tuesday morning at 10:30, we will be having the Sukkot Memorial Morning Service, not Memorial, Sukkot Morning Service. That's at 10:30, weather permitting. We will be outside here. Tuesday afternoon, even if the weather isn't permitting, we will be out here in the parking lot with Shabbatas. And I hear it's going to be really hot, so your parking lot attendant is going to be schwitzing at Shabbatas. But now that the high holidays are over, we can resume Shabbatas, which of course is a very important fundraiser for us. Thank you to everyone who either helps out or supports it. That'll be Tuesday from 4 to 7, not weather permitting, 4 to 7 or until sold out. And if you go to the website in advance and order your dinner, you save $1, and you're guaranteed of having it. Speaking of food, in 2 weeks we have Walk Off Hunger. By the way, did anyone see all the food that was donated for our high holiday food drive? That's overwhelming. Thank you to everyone who did that. That's such an important thing that we do. We've been doing it for many years, and there's a lot there this year. People really were generous. So thank you for that. That will be very appreciative. That, of course, is going to feed more Western New York, to feed those less hungry. And then Walk Off Hunger is here in our parking lot, Saturday, October 2nd, from 10 to noon, walking the original route of the walk again this year. That's a lot of fun. We, of course, are going to continue to evaluate everything that we do. I mentioned earlier, we'll still wear masks out here in the parking lot. And as things evolve, we will evolve with them, because we will continue to put your safety first. If you need anything at all, The Rabbi, the cantor, Joanne, Todd, myself, we are all here for you. If it's during the middle of the night, call Joanne. Regular business hours, call any of the rest of us. And thank you again. Shabbat Shalom. Speaking of Joanne, she is out already. Good. I know she went in to get the ice cream. So we got the ice cream treats. We got the fruit bars for those of you that are gluten-free or dairy-free. And thank you, as always, for being part of our Shir Shalom family. And enjoy tonight.
I think you just created a new concept, schwitzing, Shabbat schwitz. So I love that. We should set up an old schwitz, right? Under the tent. I don't know if you could do it outside. All right, we're going to move to our end of our service, and we have our final hymn on 625, Adon Olam.
Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Adon Olam, Yitnasa, B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon. Everyone, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei Kiknot Akol, Levado Yivapera Adon Olam, V'hu Haya, V'hu Hover, V'hu Yevetipara Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Echad V'yisheni, V'cham Shilo Le'achbira Adon Olam, V'ni Reshit, V'ni Tachlit, V'lo Ha'oz V'hamisa Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tzorkani V'yitzara Adon. I didn't do this one already. V'hu Nisi, anyone know? V'manasli, V'nakasi V'yom Nikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'yado Hakid Ruchi, V'yitvishan V'yachira Adon Olam, V'yimruchi Geviati, Adon Ani V'lo Yira Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
Adon Olam,
Asher Malach,
Asher Malach,
B'terem Kol,
B'terem Kol,
Yitzir Nivra, Yitnasa,
Yitnasa,
B'chefzo Kol, Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
Chala, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. This goes to Paul for all of his wonderful service and playing over the course of the high holidays. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Shabbat Shalom. How good it is to hear just those words.
Those of you that pulled into the parking spaces front ways, be careful backing up.
Definitely a good night for ice cream, to say. Yeah, sure. Oh, thank you.
got the little tops on it, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's
This was an earlier copy. I